In this lab, we're going to create some fictitious data, and then we're going to evaluate that data and do some descriptive analytics to see what data we have. So to do so, let's go ahead and start a new chat, and we can either click here, suggesting new chat, or we could just go ahead and write in start a new chat. And that's just to kind of clear the registers to make sure we have everything we need. Next, I'm going to cut and paste the prompt where we're creating a mock data set. So generative AI has the ability to create data. And so in this case, we're going to create a data set for a fruit store in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And we want various descriptors, various columns, various attributes that include transaction ID, transaction date, product SKU, where SKU is a unique identifier, also called a stock keeping unit, the product name, how many we sold, and the price. And if we took quantity sold times price, that would give us the total sales amount, and that'll be something we want to check. And then the quantity sold times the per unit cost will give us the total cost. And we want to make sure the data is realistic and representative of small business, and we want at least 200 transactions. So we're describing in detail exactly what we want. And so let's go ahead and hit enter there. On that, it'll take a second or two to put together that data set. And once we've created that data set, we're going to start creating some attributes associated with that data set. We are most interested in profits. So sales, total sales less total costs, but we want it by SKU or line by line. So you can see it's done what we've asked. It says it's realistic. We can certainly check that. We could just click on this and see that data. And we could also add some additional items, information to that. But at this point, we're going to go ahead and move on and calculate the profit. And so we want to calculate profit as the total sales less the total cost. And we want to do that by SKU. And so that's something we'll want to check. We don't want it overall. We want it item by item. And then we're going to calculate the profit margin as the profit we just computed divided by the sales price. And so we're going to do that. And one of the things we could do is ask it to provide the formula that we gave. We've given some details, and it looks like it's providing that for us. And providing it here would be a decimal, which is also the same. And so now we have a new data set that we could download, but we can get some examples here of what it might look like item by item. Okay, so next we're going to go ahead and see if we can summarize the full data set. That's a common occurrence within descriptive analytics is, hey, let's summarize what we found. So we're going to summarize the full data set, and we're going to report which SKU had the highest profits and which one had the highest profit margin. So remember, since this is generative, it's going to be different every time you see it. So the set that I have here, since it's fictitious, is going to be different than yours, and so it might get a different answer, which we'd expect using generative AI. And so now it looks like it's given us a data set summary of all items. Looks like we had 200, which we requested. How many units were sold? So even though there were 200 transactions, we sold 859. And it looks like the profit was 1,094, and profit margin was 45.72. So if we took this profit and divided by the sales price, that's what we'd get. And it looks like the one with the highest total profits is watermelon. The one with the highest profit margin looks to be bananas, and so we can see that. And it's starting to give us some interpretation, giving some ideas of what we might want to see. And so we could certainly go and rank this from top to bottom, but at this point what we're going to do is ask it for a histogram of the profit margin for each transaction. Histograms equals counts. So we're essentially trying to get the count of how many are in each bin or each bucket. And so let's go ahead and ask that. It's going to be a visualization. It's a frequency table. How many counts are in each bin? Now we could further specify and say exactly what we want the bins to look like. Are these 1%, so between 40 and 41%, and between 41 and 42%? We can certainly specify that. In this case, it looks like it has decided what it wants it to be, and we may or may not want that. I mean, it's kind of hard to see exactly what is being included and what is not being included in here. But we see that most transactions are between 44 and 49%. We can see that here included. And we can see, some low margin items, some high margin items, and we can see what that looks like. Well, profit margin is a percentage, but I'm also interested in the profits of each transaction. So how many dollars are we getting back as a result of each of the 200 transactions? So again, we're going to do a histogram. Histogram again equals counts. So for each dollar item, we're going to get that distribution. You can see this is dollars. Now we could go and ask it for it to be by dollars, but you can see profit per transaction is by dollar, and we can kind of see, looks like we're profitable on all of them. Some of the transactions we're making more than $20. And so we can get some various interpretation of what these look like, and we could look and see which items are where and see what it looks like overall. Next, we're going to get into reporting the results or sharing the story. And essentially, we're going to ask it to output the final histogram. And I like being very descriptive about that histogram and seeing what that looks like as the histogram is included there. And so we want this, and now we want the final histogram, so the one by profits, and we want it as a PNG. Now, I like to be very descriptive, so when I come back later and look at it, I can figure out what I've done. But this will output it. If we wanted to output it, we'll also, if we'll just go to the share, it will output the individual items as well. But that usually doesn't have a good descriptor on it. And so I like to say exactly what I want. Okay. And so here's the histograms by profit. Notice that's what I asked it to provide. And we can go and open that and see what that looks like in the download area. Now I can see that this went to my downloads folder. There you see it. And so you can see what the various items look like. But there's my histogram, and looks identical to what we saw. But here it is with a proper label. The last thing I'm going to ask it to do is provide the prompts. So generally I want to know exactly what I did, exactly what I asked, because it may or may not be interpretable. And if I'm doing 10 of these, I want to be able to say, okay, these are the prompts that produce this visualization. And so you can see each of our prompts in here of what we provided. So that completes this lab.